Greek art history. Time frame was from about 650 BC to about 27 BC. Greek art was divided into three periods, one of which is the Archaic period, and its time frame was from about 650 BC to about 480 BC, and it started with geometric sequences on pottery. Aged into two types of painting. Black figure pottery painted the figure on the pot. Red figure pottery painted the background rather than the figure, which was a very complicated process that used oxygen levels to make the paint cure correctly. Both often depicted stories on them and were mass-produced and were shipped over the Mediterranean Sea. Also during the Archaic period, the Greeks were advanced in architecture, which led to the creation of new types of columns, such as the Ionic column, which had a scroll on the top and it was advanced from the simple Doric column. Sculptures now added hair to give architectural support to the neck, and a wider stance was adopted. Male statues were called choros, and female were called chore. Here we have the terracotta deinos. The terracotta deinos was a bowl used for the mixing of wine and water, and is decorated with panthers, sphinxes, goats, and lions, and two horizontal bands. Each beast stands distinct from the other, marching in measured rhythm with rosettes and scrolls scattered around them. The images and design derive from Near Eastern traditions.
The classical period started in 480 BC, when the Persian Empire invaded Athens and destroyed a majority of the city, kickstarting Athens' new spree for classic art. Pottery advanced to show scenes of Greek mythology and pictures of everyday life of the residents. Sculptures, instead of using just rock, now use bronze, and ended up struggling with proportions in the beginning of this period. Sculpture started using a pose called the contrapposto, which made the shoulders slanted from the hips and put the weight on one leg, making the sculpture seem more relaxed in comparison to how sculptures were before. Various other new advances in architecture were used. Pericles ordered the build of the Parthenon, which held a statue of Athena, the Greek goddess of war. Sculptures became more realistic and became more proportional. People figured out that the average human is about 6.5 heads tall, which is used today in places such as comic books to have a more realistic view of superheroes. Pottery showed a decline during the period, and few advances were observed during that time. Sculptures, in addition to being bronze, were also made out of marble, bone, and ivory. The most popular sculptures of this time period were the Venus de Milo and the Winged Victory of Samothrace. Artists worked towards creating the ideal human. In the period in Athens, art became a profession, creating art schools and other places where people could study art and create their own sculptures. The period's ending was marked by the death of Alexander the Great in 330 BC. One work of art from the classical period was a marble grave stele of a little girl, erected in memory of the deceased. The girl is bowing her head, affectionately holding the bird, which appears to be her favorite.
The Hellenistic period, which is the third and last period of Greek art, started when Alexander the Great's kingdom reached all the way from Greece to Asia Minor. This spread Greek culture and was also now very dominant in many countries and cultures. Sculptures now had more emotion, like Laocoon and his sons, and also had animals and children and ordinary people, which were now acceptable sculptures as well. Sculptures no longer pictured the perfect being. Other architectural marvels, like the Parthenon and many other temples, were now showing their age through many battles, like when the Persians invaded. As the Hellenistic period came to an end, Greek culture spread into many countries in many traditions and were also copied by the Romans, not just their art, but also their religion. Laocoon and his sons was excavated in 1506 and is often called the prototypical icon of human agony. It depicts Laocoon and his two sons wrestling with sea serpents and is very detailed in the pain and agony that they had felt. It is an incredibly detailed structure made of marble and is often one of the more famous sculptures of this time.